Snow fell slowly from the sky, covering the mountains in a thick white blanket. The trees stood still, holding the cold air between their branches. High above the clouds, a small alien ship flew quietly across the sky. Inside the ship sat a young alien girl named Nira. She was from a distant planet called Viren, where winter was deadly and warmth was life. Nira looked at the frozen land below and felt a chill deep in her bones. Even though she wore a thermal suit made from advanced materials, her hands were shaking. She had never seen a place so cold, so silent. Her mission was clear: observe the humans living in this snowy part of Earth and study how they survive such extreme weather. The Viren Council believed humans were not strong enough to live in such freezing places. They sent Nira to prove it. As her ship lowered through the clouds, strong winds shook the small craft. Warning lights blinked on the screen in front of her. The snowstorm was stronger than expected. Nira pressed some buttons to land safely, but the engine sputtered. A sudden gust of wind hit the ship hard. It spun once, then dropped fast. Nira's heart raced. Her screen turned red. She pulled the emergency lever. The ship crashed into a snow-covered field near a human village. The metal groaned, and smoke rose from the broken wing. Nira coughed and grabbed her scanner. Her communication system was broken. She had no choice. She needed help. She stepped out into the snow. Her boots sank deep, and the cold air hit her like a wall. She wrapped her arms around herself and looked around. The village was not far. Small wooden houses, a few lights in the windows, and smoke rising from chimneys. Every step was hard. Her legs felt heavy, her face was numb, and her breath turned into small white clouds. Just as she was about to fall, she saw someone walking toward her. It was a human, tall, wearing a thick coat, a woolen hat, and boots covered in snow. His face was calm, and he looked surprised but not scared. Reached her quickly and spoke gently. "Are you okay, Nira's?" Translator worked well. She understood him, but she could not answer. Her lips were frozen. She pointed at her broken ship and then fainted. She woke up in a warm room. Fire burned in a small fireplace. Soft blankets covered her. Her suit had been opened just enough to keep her from overheating. The human was sitting nearby, watching her. "You're safe now," he said. "I'm Tom. I found you near the river. You were half frozen." Nira sat up slowly. She looked around the small wooden cabin. It was simple wooden walls, a table, a bed, and shelves with books and tools. Yet it felt warm, not just from the fire, but something else. She couldn't explain it. Tom brought her a bowl of soup. "You're not from around here, are you?" Nira took the bowl. She held it with both hands and felt the warmth spread into her fingers. She nodded slowly. "No," she said. "Am a traveler?" Tom smiled. "Well, traveler, you picked a bad time to visit. A snowstorm's coming. Rest here tonight." As the evening passed, Nira observed Tom closely. He wore only a thick sweater now. He moved around the cabin with ease, even though the temperature outside was below freezing. His hands were red from the cold, but he didn't seem to care. He even opened the door for a moment to bring in wood, and snowflakes landed on his hair. He just laughed and shook them off. Nira stared in silence. On Viren, no one would survive 5 minutes in this weather without full heat suits and energy shields. Her scanner confirmed the outside temperature, -15 degrees Celsius. Yet, Tom acted like it was nothing. She turned on her wrist device and scanned his body. Heartbeat normal, blood temperature stable. Skin slightly cold, but no damage. Impossible, she thought. How do humans live like this? She watched as Tom added wood to the fire and sat down again. "You don't talk much," he said kindly, "but that's okay. Some people just need time to warm up." Nira tilted her head. He didn't know how true that was. That night, as the fire burned low and snow fell harder outside, Nira sat near the window and looked at the stars. Her suit had enough heat for now, but she knew she'd need repairs soon. Still, something else was on her mind. Tom was already asleep, breathing softly under a thick blanket. Nira kept thinking about what she saw. The cold here was brutal, but The humans were not weak. They smiled, worked, and even played in the snow. How? Back home, the council believed cold was the greatest enemy. Their cities floated in the warm clouds above frozen ground. They trained to survive storms using machines and shields. But here, these humans had none of that tanned yet. They lived, not just lived. They thrived. Nira opened her recorder and made a short log for her report. Day 1. I have crash-landed near a human village. Found shelter with a local named Tom. Observation. Humans are more resistant to cold than expected. Subject appears unaffected by low temperatures. Emotional response. Curious. I must learn more. She ended the log and turned off the screen. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the fire gave its soft light. And Nira, far from home and full of questions, felt something she had never felt before. Wonder. The next morning, Nira woke up to the sound of firewood crackling. The soft warmth of the cabin surrounded her like a shield. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the crash, the cold, and the human named Tom. She sat up. Slowly, her body still felt weak from the cold, but better than before. Her thermal suit had recharged a little, just enough to keep her safe indoors. She looked around the room. The fire was still going, and Tom was cooking something in a pot. Morning, he said with a smile. You sleep okay? Nira nodded. Yes, thank you. Tom handed her a cup filled with something hot and brown. It's tea, he said. Warms you up from the inside. She sipped it carefully. It was bitter but calming. The warmth traveled down her throat, and she felt her fingers loosen. On Viren, they didn't drink hot tea. Everything was synthetic, stored, and carefully measured. Nothing like this. After breakfast, Nira stood by the window and looked outside. Snow covered everything. Trees, the ground, even the wooden fence around the cabin. White and quiet. A frozen world. Tom walked up beside her and pointed. You see those hills? It's where I grew up. I used to slide down them as a kid. Snow didn't scare us. We played in it. Nira turned her head in surprise. Played. He chuckled. Yeah, sledding, snowball fights, building snowmen. Cold is part of life here, Nira could not believe. Her people avoided cold at all costs. Even their children were trained to fear it. But here, humans played in it like it was nothing. Would you like to see the forest? Tom asked. She hesitated. Her suit wasn't fully charged, and her body still felt weak. But something inside her said yes. Yes, she replied. Tom gave her a second coat and a thick scarf. He wrapped a woolen hat around her head. Not sure it fits an alien, he joked, but it'll help. Nira smiled faintly. She followed him outside. The cold hit her instantly. Her breath turned into fog and her feet sank deep into the snow. But Tom walked ahead like he was walking on grass. They reached a trail that led into the forest. Trees stood tall and silent, their branches heavy with snow. Nira looked around with wide eyes. It's beautiful, she whispered. Tom nodded. It is. Cold doesn't mean lifeless. You just have to look closer. As they walked, Tom showed her how to spot animal tracks, how to find dry wood, and how to listen for birds, even in winter. Cold makes you smarter, he said. Teaches you how to survive. After walking for a while, Tom stopped at a small clearing. He dropped his backpack and began gathering sticks. What are you doing? Nira asked. Building a campfire, he said. Want to help? She knelt beside him, copying his movements. He taught her how to stack the wood, leave space for air, and light a fire with a small spark. Soon, flames danced between the logs. Nira reached her hands toward the fire. The heat felt like magic against her frozen fingers. Tom sat across from her and smiled. You're doing great. First time building a fire? Nira nodded. On my world, fire is ... controlled by machines. We don't do it by hand. Well, he said, now you do. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the crackling wood and the soft wind. Nira looked at Tom closely. His cheeks were red from the cold, but his eyes were calm. No fear, no pain, just peace. How are you not cold? She asked. Finally, Tom shrugged. Guess we just get used to it. My body's not special. I feel the cold, too. But you learn how to live with it. Nira didn't answer. She was thinking deeply. Later, they walked back to the cabin. Snow began. Falling again, light and quiet, Nira moved slowly, but she didn't feel as afraid of the cold anymore. She remembered the fire, the way it warmed her, and the way Tom smiled through the snow. When they reached the cabin, Tom gave her another blanket and a bowl of hot soup. You're tougher than you look, he said kindly. Nira looked into the soup and thought about her people. He believed humans were soft, unprepared, and emotional. But Tom was not weak. He was kind, calm, and full of strength she didn't understand. She activated her wrist device and made another log. Day 2. Went outside with the human named Tom. Observed him walk through snow without difficulty. Built a fire with him. Learned how to survive in the cold using simple tools. Emotional response, respect. Humans are not weak. They are different, strong in their own way. She turned off the device and looked at the fire again. Tom sat nearby, reading a book. The storm outside was growing stronger, but the cabin stayed warm. Nira looked at him and said quietly, "Thank you for showing me." He looked up. Showing. You what? That cold is not always the enemy. That night, Nira stood near the window again. Snow blew against the glass, and the wind howled like a voice from the stars. Her ship was still broken. Her suit was still damaged, but she was no longer scared. Tom had taught her something more than survival. He had shown her that humans didn't just fight the cold. They accepted it, worked with it, played in it, and even found joy in it. She smiled softly. There was more to learn here. Much more. And she wanted to stay. The third day in the snowy village began with sunlight reflecting off white hills. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silent world made of ice and light. Nira stood near the window, watching as Tom chopped firewood outside. The cold wind blew through his coat, yet he moved like it was just another normal day. She wrapped the scarf around her neck and stepped outside. Tom looked up. You're feeling better, yes? She replied. I want to come with you? Tom raised an eyebrow. It's not easy out here. It's a long walk. You sure? I need to understand, Nira said. I want to see how far humans can go in this cold. He nodded. All right then, let's get moving. Tom packed a backpack with food, water, and a blanket. He handed Nira a second pair of gloves and boots with thicker soles. The trail ahead led through forest, then over a frozen river, and up to the cliffs, where the wind blew strongest. As they began walking, Nira's boots sank into the snow. Each step was harder than the last, but she kept going. Tom moved ahead, sometimes slowing down to wait for her. You don't talk much, he said after a while. I am saving my energy, she replied, breathing heavily. He smiled. Fair enough. After half an hour, they reached the river. Ice stretched across the surface like white glass. Nira stopped and stared. Is it safe? Tom tested the ice with a stick. It's thick enough. Follow my steps. They crossed slowly. Nira could feel the frozen air coming up through the ice. Her legs felt heavy, and her thermal suit began to alert her temperature, dropping fast. Almost there, Tom called out. By the time they reached the other side, Nira was shaking. Her scanner beeped softly. Her body was nearing the danger zone. But she didn't say anything. She wanted to see more. Tom led her to the edge of the cliff. The view was wide trees below, mountains beyond, and clouds moving slowly in the sky. Tom pointed. That's the tallest peak. I climbed it once. Just to see the sunrise. Nira stared at him. Why? He shrugged. Because it's there. And because the cold doesn't stop us from living. She sat down on a rock, tired. Her suit was losing power again. She could feel the cold sinking in, deeper than before. Tom noticed. We should start a fire. He cleared some snow and quickly built a small campfire using dry twigs he had brought in his bag. Within minutes, the flames were burning strong. Nira moved closer, warming her hands. You keep doing this, she said. You keep saving me. Tom laughed softly. That's what friends do. Nira stared into the fire, thinking deeply. She had come to Earth to observe and report, to collect data. But something else was happening. She was beginning to feel something new. Respect, yes, but also connection. Back on Viren, she said slowly, we never go outside. Without full bodysuits, we stay in warm domes. If the heat fails, people can die in minutes. Tom nodded. Sounds tough. It is. That's why we thought humans wouldn't survive places like this. But I see now, we were wrong. Tom poked the fire with a stick. Maybe your people think strength means avoiding danger. But sometimes, strength means facing it. Nira looked at him. The wind blew through the trees and snowflakes danced around them. But beside the fire, it felt safe. Later, as they packed up to return, Nira's legs felt heavy again. She had pushed her limits. Her suit was blinking red, now power low. The cold was creeping in, but she stayed quiet. She didn't want to stop. Halfway back, her steps grew slower. Tom noticed. You okay? He asked. I just need a moment. He helped her sit on a log. Her fingers were stiff, her breath shallow. She was close to freezing. Without a word, Tom opened his coat and wrapped it around her. Then he lit another fire beside the trail. You're strong, Nira, he said. But you don't have to prove anything. Just stay warm. As the fire warmed her again, Nira thought of her people. Iron leaders believed humans were not ready for greater contact. But they didn't see what she saw. Humans were not weak. They were just ... different. They didn't fight the cold with high technology. They used knowledge, kindness, and heart. Tom boiled water from snow and made her tea. He stayed beside her until her suit's warning light turned off. Let's head back slowly, he said. She nodded. Thank you. At a time they returned to the cabin, the sky was turning orange. Nira was tired, but something had changed. She didn't fear the cold, now not like before. That night, she sat by the fire again and recorded her thoughts. Day 3. I traveled through snow and over frozen river with a human guide. I nearly reached my limit but was protected again. By him. Humans face the cold with courage and calm. Emotional response. Deep respect. They are stronger than we believed, not because they resist cold, but because they keep moving forward. She looked at the screen for a moment, then added softly, and they care. Tom was fixing something at the table. Nira walked over and stood beside him. Tomorrow, she said, will you teach me how to build a snow shelter? Tom looked up. A snow shelter? Yes, she said. If I stay longer, I want to survive. ... the human way. He smiled. Then tomorrow, we build an igloo. Outside, the stars returned. The cold was still there, silent, sharp, and endless. But inside the cabin, the fire burned bright. Beside it, 2 lives from different worlds were learning to understand each other, not just through words, but through warmth. The next morning, soft snow covered the world again. Tom and Nira stood in the open field near the cabin. Few tools were placed on the ground: a snow shovel, a metal pan, and a strong wooden stick. Today, Nira would learn how to build a snow shelter in igloo, as Tom called it. First, Tom said, you have to find the right snow. Not too soft, not too hard.
Right.
Nira knelt down and pressed her gloved hand into the snow. How can snow be just right? Like people, snow is different. You have to feel it. They worked together, packing blocks of snow. Tom showed her how to cut them into shape and place them in a circle. Nira's hands moved slowly, but her eyes were full of focus. Bit by bit, the walls of the small shelter began to rise. After an hour, the igloo stood proudly round and strong. Nira crawled inside and sat down. The inside felt quiet and still. Strange, she said. It's warmer in here. Tom nodded from the entrance. Snow holds heat inside, like a cave. What? Nira touched the wall gently. On Viren, they would never use snow like this. Snow was danger. But here, humans turned it into protection. Suddenly, her wrist device beeped sharply. A red light flashed. Near us. Eyes widened. It was a signal from her mothership. She stepped outside the igloo and walked away from Tom. He watched her go. Sensing something was wrong, Nira tapped her screen and opened the message. Explorer Nira. We have been monitoring your location. Your time on Earth is over. Turn to the extraction point within 48 hours. Human behavior is unpredictable. Direct contact is not advised. Await pickup. Do not share advanced knowledge. This is an order. Nira stared at the screen, her heart heavy. She had expected a response soon, but not like this. Tom walked over. Everything okay? She quickly closed the screen. Yes, just ... A message from home. Tom didn't push her. He simply nodded. Well, let's head back inside. The wind's picking up. Inside the cabin, Nira sat quietly by the fire. Her mind raced. The council didn't want more contact. They were afraid. Afraid of what humans might become. Afraid of what Nira might be learning. She looked at Tom as he stirred a pot of soup. He hummed softly, relaxed, unaware of the message she had received. Nira felt torn. Her mission was almost over, but her heart wasn't ready to leave. Tom, she said slowly, do you trust people from other worlds? Tom looked at her. Tink. I'd want to meet them first. Talk to them. Share food. Ask questions. What if your leaders told you not to? He smiled. Leaders don't always see what's right in front of them. Nira stayed quiet. She knew what she had to do, but part of her wanted to delay just a little longer that night. As the snowstorm returned, Nira sent her own message to the Viren. Ship. To Council Command. I have learned more than expected. The humans are not enemies. They are stronger than we believe, not because of weapons or machines, but because of heart, spirit, and survival skills. I request more time. I believe peaceful contact is possible. She hesitated, then added, also, I no longer see them as simple subjects. One has become my friend. She pressed send. The reply came quickly. Denied. Your request is rejected. Return immediately. End contact. We will arrive in 2 Earth days. Do not delay. Nira closed her eyes. Her people were afraid of the unknown. And now they were sending a ship. The next day, the skies were gray and quiet. Tom noticed something different in Nira's face. You seem far away today. Nira looked at him. She wanted to tell him everything, but didn't know how. There's something I need to say, she whispered. But I don't know if you'll believe me. Try me, Tom said gently. She took a deep breath. I didn't come here by accident. I was sent. I'm not just a traveler. I'm an explorer from another planet. Tom blinked, silent. My ship crashed. You helped me. But now, my people want me to leave. They think you're dangerous. Tom sat down slowly. Dangerous? Me? Not just you? All humans. They don't understand how you survive this cold. They think it means you might be stronger than expected. Maybe even too strong. He nodded slowly. And what do you think, Nira? Looked at him with clear eyes. I think... They are wrong. You're not dangerous. You're brave. You live with nature, not against it. You helped me when I was weak, and you didn't ask for anything in return. Tom took a deep breath. Then why not tell them that? I did, she said. They're coming. Soon, the wind howled outside and the fire inside burned low. Tom stood up and paced. If they come here, will they hurt anyone? I don't think so, Nira said. They're not violent, just careful. But they may take me back, or erase what I learned. Tom walked to the window. Then we need to show them what this place really is. Let them see who we are. Nira nodded slowly. But how? Tom turned back to her. Invite them. Don't hide. Let them come and see that we're not enemies. Let them meet a real human. She thought for a moment. It's risky. But maybe it's the only way. That night, Nira recorded one last message. To the Viren Council. I will remain in this location until your arrival. But I ask again, come not with fear, but with open eyes. Come and meet the people I have met. Come and feel the cold they live in. Only then will you understand." She closed the device and looked at Tom. "I hope they listen," she said. He smiled gently. "And if they don't, we'll build another fire." Outside, the snow covered the land once more. But this time, Nira did not see it as the enemy. She saw it as the test humans had passed long ago, and she had begun to pass it. 2. The sky turned dark gray, and snow began to fall again. But this time, it was not the soft, peaceful kind. Thick clouds rolled across the sky. The wind picked up speed, whistling through the trees. A heavy snowstorm was coming. Tom looked up. "We should stay inside. This one looks bad." Anna stood beside him, watching the sky. "How long will it last?" "Maybe all night," he said. "Sometimes even longer." They gathered firewood, filled water containers, and shut the windows tightly. The cabin creaked under the force of the wind, but it stood strong inside. The fire burned, and the two of them waited. After a few hours, the storm got worse. Snow slammed against the windows. The wind howled like a wild animal. Then, suddenly, the lights in the cabin went out. The heater made a strange noise and stopped. Tom stood up quickly. "The power's gone. That happens sometimes." Face turned pale. Her thermal suit was already low on energy. Without outside heat, her body would not last long. Tom grabbed candles and lit them one by one. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out extra blankets. "Stay near the fire," he said. "I'll keep it going." But Nira was already starting to shiver. Her body could not handle this kind of cold without help. Her fingers were stiff and her lips trembled. Tom noticed, moved fast, wrapping a blanket around her. He added more wood to the fire and brought her close to the warmest spot. "Just breathe," he said softly. "You'll be okay." Nira looked at him. Her voice was weak, but her heart was full. She had seen him do many kind things. But this moment, this simple act of care meant the most. She stared into the flames and said, "Tom, I want to tell you everything." He looked at her. "I'm listening." "My people live in floating cities above frozen ground. We hide from the cold. We fear it. When someone faces danger, we send machines to protect them. But you, use hands, fire, and courage." Tom stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I was trained to follow orders, to collect data, but I broke that rule. I stayed longer. I wanted to understand why humans live with such strength in such hard places." She paused and looked into his eyes. "And now I know. You survive because you don't fight nature. You live with it. You build homes, fires, and friendships. It's something we forgot." Tom moved closer, Nira. "You risked a lot to be here. You taught me things too. I've lived in this snow all my life. I never thought it was special until you showed me." She smiled faintly, though her body was still shaking. He looked worried. "You're freezing. Stay under the blankets." "I'll stay with you." He placed another candle near her and checked the fire again. Flames still burned, but slowly. The storm outside was stealing the warmth. Nira tried to sit up. "Tom, if your people were in danger, what would you do?" He looked at her. "I'd protect them, no matter what." She nodded slowly. "That's what I must do now. Not just follow orders, but protect both sides, my people and yours." The night felt long. Hours passed in silence except for the wind outside and the crackling fire inside. At one point, Nira's head rested on Tom's shoulder. Her body was weak, but her mind was clear. Tom whispered, "Stay awake. Keep talking." Nira opened her eyes and said, "Back on Viren, we live with machines. No snow, no firewood, no real danger. But also, no warmth like this. No kindness like this." Tom held her hand gently. "You're safe now. We'll make it through the night." Finally, just before morning, the storm began to calm. The wind grew quiet. The snow stopped falling. Light returned to the sky, and the fire inside the cabin burned brighter. Nira opened her eyes and saw sunlight on the wall. She was alive. Tom smiled. You made it. She sat up slowly. Only because of you. He handed her a cup of warm tea and added, and because of you, you didn't give up. Later that morning, they stepped outside together. Snow lay deep on the ground, but the sky was clear. Nira looked up. Distant light blinked in the sky. Her mother's ship was near. She had one more day before pickup. She turned to Tom. When my people come tomorrow, they will want me to leave. I want them to see what I saw. I want them to meet you. Tom looked out over the snow-covered land. Then let's welcome them, not with fear, but with a fire. That evening, they built a large campfire in the open field. Nira set up a signal beacon near it. The message was simple. To the Viren command, I await your arrival. Come peacefully. I have something important to show you. They sat beside the fire as the sky turned pink and blue. Nira looked at Tom. Thank you for helping me survive the cold, and for teaching me how to face it. Tom smiled. Thank you for trusting me. Far above them, the Viren ship moved closer. But this time, Nira was not afraid. She had faced the storm. The truth was now clear. Humans were not just cold survivors. They were warm-hearted beings with something special inside, something her people needed to understand. The next morning, Nira stood on the snowy hill beside the large fire she and Tom had built. Her signal beacon blinked beside it, sending out a peaceful message again and again. High above, her mother ship was waiting. Today was the day they would come for her. Tom stood beside her, holding 2 cups of hot tea. They'll be here soon. Nira nodded. Yes, they will come before sunset. He handed her the tea. Sure you want to stay out here in the cold all day? It's not so cold when the fire is near. The flames danced between them, strong and bright. Smoke rose into the clear blue sky. This was her message to the stars, a sign of welcome, not war. As the sun rose higher, Nira checked her scanner. A signal was approaching from orbit. They're on the way, she said softly. Tom looked up. What will they do? Deal. Try to take me back. Maybe question me. Maybe erase my memories. I don't know. Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You don't have to go, you know. Nira looked at him. I don't want to leave, but if I don't go, they might see it as betrayal. Then maybe, Tom said, they need to learn what loyalty really means. They sat beside the fire, watching the snow fall lightly around them. The mountains stood still. The wind whispered gently. Everything was peaceful, too peaceful for a day that might change everything. I have an idea, Tom said. Nira turned to him. You? Said your people fear humans because we survive the cold, he said. So let them see us, not just hear about us. Let them see the truth. How? You let me talk to them. Nira was silent. No human had ever spoken to the Viren Council. It was dangerous. But she also knew Tom's words had a kind of strength, simple and honest. Maybe that was what her people needed. She finally nodded. All right, but stay close to me. Later that afternoon, the sky changed. Strange light appeared above the forest. A soft hum filled the air. Snowflakes hung in place for a moment, as if frozen in time. Then the Viren ship appeared drowned and silver, floating just above the trees. A quiet wind followed it. The ship hovered, then slowly lowered a silver ramp to the snowy field. 3. Viren officers stepped out wearing full heat suits with glowing lines. Their faces were hidden behind glass. Nira stepped forward. She raised her hand calmly. Welcome. One of the officers spoke. Explorer Nira, you disobeyed orders. You remained too long. Explain. I remained because I learned more than we expected, Nira said. And because I found the truth. She turned and motioned for Tom to step forward. This is Tom, a human. He helped me when I was weak. He showed me how they live, how they survive, and how they care. He is not a threat. He is a friend. Officers looked at Tom. He stepped forward calmly, wearing only a thick coat and gloves, his breath turning white in the air. I'm not here to fight, Tom said. I'm just a man who lives in the snow, that's all. But I helped Nira because she needed help. That's what we do. The lead officer said, your kind walks in the cold as if it is nothing. Your body resists what we fear. That alone makes you dangerous. Tom shook his head. What makes someone dangerous is not their body. It's how they use it. I chop wood, make fire, and share food. I don't hurt. I help. The officers were silent. Nira stepped forward again. I've lived among them. I've seen their hearts. They are not like us, but that doesn't mean they are our enemy. The lead officer finally spoke again. You were ordered to return. Nira stood tall. I will return only if you promise this. Listen to what I've learned. Watch the recordings. Speak to the people. Then decide. The officers looked at one another. The silence was long. Finally, the lead officer gave a short nod. We will take you. The human must stay here. But we will hear your report. Nira turned to Tom. Her eyes were full of emotion, but her face was calm. I must go with them, she said softly. Tom nodded. Understand? She reached into her coat and gave him her wrist device. It has my recordings. If I don't return, ... You'll have the truth. Tom gently held the device. You'll be back. I believe it. The ramp of the ship glowed as Nira stepped onto it. The wind around them grew stronger. The ship slowly rose and the light faded into the clouds. Tom stood alone in the snow, watching the sky. The fire beside him still burned, and he waited. In space, inside the Viren ship, Nira sat in a bright room. The council members appeared on screens in front of her. She spoke clearly. Humans are not a threat. Their strength comes from the way they live with heart and with hope. They survive because they care for each other. We could learn from them. The council asked many questions. They watched her recordings, her logs, and her messages. Some looked confused. Some looked thoughtful. And one of them, an old leader with gray eyes, finally said, We were wrong. Back on Earth, the fire had nearly gone out. Tom waited until the last log turned to ash. Then, just as he stood up to leave, a soft hum returned to the sky. He looked up. The silver ship returned, and Nira stepped out, smiling. Told them the truth, she said. Tom smiled back. Did they believe it? They're starting to. Snow fell softly around the cabin as the sun rose behind the mountains. Tom stood outside with his axe, chopping wood as usual. The wind touched his face, but he didn't mind. He had grown up in the cold. It was part of him. Nira stood nearby, wrapped in a warm coat, watching him work. She still felt the chill, but something inside her had changed. She no longer feared the cold. She understood it now, just like she had come to understand the humans. It had been 1 week since she returned. From the Viren ship, the council had allowed her to stay on Earth. For now, they were watching. They were listening. Most importantly, they were thinking. She was still under orders to report daily, but those reports were different now. Not about danger. Not about weapons. They were about life, kindness, and what it meant to survive together. That evening, Tom and Nira sat near the fire inside the cabin. The wood crackled softly, filling the room with warmth and calm light. Nira looked at Tom. Do you think others like you would help someone like me? Tom smiled. Most would. Some wouldn't, but the ones who would, they'd do it without asking why. Right. She nodded slowly. That's what I told the council. It's that your strength is not in your muscles or your skin. It's in your choices. Tom leaned back. In your people. You think they really believed that? They're learning, Nira replied. It will take time. 2 days later, a message arrived on Nira's wrist device. It was from the Viren Council. You are given permission to extend your stay on Earth. Continue peaceful observation. We request one thing. Show us more. Nira smiled when she read it. She showed the message to Tom. They want to understand. They want to see more of your people. Tom nodded. We show them. Together, they began to travel. Nia followed Tom across frozen rivers and snowy hills. They visited small villages where people shared warm meals and simple stories. They walked through forests where hunters respected the animals and taught their children to do the same. Everywhere they went, Nira recorded. She spoke with old women who survived long winters with strength in their hearts. She listened to children laugh while playing in the snow. She watched neighbors help each other without being asked. This was the human spirit, strong, kind, and real. One night they reached a town deep in the mountains. A snowstorm hit suddenly, strong and wild. The power went out, roads were blocked. It was dangerous, but the people did not panic. They gathered in a large hall. Fires were lit, food was shared, blankets were passed around, and strangers became family, if only for the night. Nira sat in the corner of the hall, her device recording everything. A little boy came up to her and asked, "Are you cold?" She smiled softly. Not as much as before. He handed her his blanket. "You can use this. I'm warm already." She took it gently, her eyes misty. "Thank you." That night, she sent a message to the Viren Council. "Today I saw humans survive the worst storm of this season, but not alone. They did it together, not with fire alone, but with kindness." The council responded 2 days later. "Your observations are being reviewed across Viron colonies. The fear is fading. Understanding grows. Continue your mission." Nira couldn't believe it. She looked at Tom. "They are changing," Tom nodded, "because you showed them the truth." Weeks passed, winter began to weaken. The sun stayed longer in the sky. The snow melted slowly. One day, as Nira and Tom sat near the river, she looked up at the stars. "I used to think your kind was strange," she said. Tom smiled. "You still do?" She laughed lightly. "Yes, but now I see the beauty in it." They sat in silence for a while. Then Tom asked, "What will you do next?" "I'll keep sending messages," Nira said. "But not just to the council, to everyone." Tom looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to create a broadcast. A peaceful message for all Viren and humans. To teach both sides what I've learned." Tom nodded slowly. "That's a big step." "Yes," she said. "But every big change starts with a small voice." A month later, the message was ready. Nira stood in front of the camera in the cabin. Snow gently fell outside the window. Tom sat beside her, but let her speak. She looked into the lens and began. "To all who listen, whether from Earth or the star's eye, send this message of peace. I came to this planet to observe, to study, to report. But what I found was something deeper. I found a people who live in the cold, not because they have to, but because they choose to endure. Their strength is not just in their bodies, it is in their hearts. They help each other. They laugh, they learn, they forgive. We, the Viren, feared their nature, but now I see they are not a threat. They are a mirror. We must look into that mirror and ask ourselves, can we be as strong not just in power but in kindness? I believe we can. The cold does not make them dangerous, it makes them beautiful." The message was sent across Viren communication lines. It was played in ships, colonies, and homes. Some watched with doubt, some with tears, but they all listened. Weeks later, Nira received a final message from the Viren Council. "Your mission is complete. We will begin talks of peace. You are no longer an observer, you are an ambassador." She closed the message and looked at Tom. "Well," she said, "I guess I have a new job." Tom smiled.
Good.
"You are always more than just a visitor." The stars above shone brighter that night. The wind blew softer, the snow no longer. It felt like something to fight, felt like something to live with, and high above the earth. A message from one brave girl and one kind man floated across space, a message that said, humans are not to be feared, they're to be understood.